Namaskar, hello and welcome to this special broadcast from Rethink India. This is a primer on the upcoming campaign. We are calling it as the Edu India campaign, out of which Rethink India Institute wishes to identify 108 global higher edu brands from across the nook and cranny of this vast country. We have around 1,008 plus universities across over there. And one of the core concerns across educational regulators, educational planners in the higher education space, that India is losing a vast amount of talent, vast amount of students to foreign shores. In 2023 alone, the number of Indian students taking admission abroad, it exceeded more than 7,50,000, uh, which was a remarkable 50% increase from 2021. So somewhere or the other, Ano Bhadra Kratvo Yantu Ishwataha, let noble thoughts come to us from all directions. That notion, that faith in the Indian higher education system is somewhat lagging, and perhaps there is a kind of a lack of organized, concerted campaign for positioning or for taking that. India too has a very eminent higher education space. And with that objective, Rethink India Institute has curated this Edu India campaign, which intends to reclaim India's preeminent position as a global edu destination, imparting world class education, uh, stalling the mass exodus of students abroad. So while we might not be attracting so many students from foreign shores to our Indian campuses, but at least we can stall a significant chunk. The collective success of our higher education space would perhaps be reducing the quantum of students who are really going abroad. So, with this objective, today happens to be when we are recording this session, it is the World Tourism Day, and tourism from a perspective of edu tourism. Bharatvarsh Vishwaguru hua karta tha, and we have historical annals that global scholars used to flank India's universities of the yore. So perhaps the challenge for us today is how to position India as a global edu destination. So with this, Rethink India as would be compiling a compendium of 108 very eminent global higher edu brands. Uh, and this compendium would try to have a geographical inclusion. The entire country has been segmented into zones: north, south, west, east, and central. And we would like to have, as much as possible, a very equitable distribution from the various geo-cultural locales of the country. The the 20 odd state clusters, whatever we have. We would like to call upon rather very earnest and very sincere higher edu brands who are really working so very hard to convert their edu destination, who are really contributing. Their edu brand has become synonymous with the brand of their educational institution. For example, the moment we hear about Banasthali, we all get to know about the Banasthali University out there. The moment we talk about Kharagpur, so the Indian Institute of Technology, my own alma mater, the memory just goes rushing out there. So in the 75 years of our independence, post independence, a lot of effort has really gone into establishing the seats of higher education, and especially in the last 20 to 25 years, a lot of Vishwavidyalaya have come, which are especially self-funded, society-funded, we can say, apart from the government funding, as we can say, the government funding in the higher education space has also been quite significant. India is known by its IITs, IIMs, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, but then there is a vast amount of privately held higher education institutions. They have the stature of a university, the autonomous status of university, and the University Grants Commission oversees their operations, their excellence all through. So this is going to be an Edu India 2025 compendium where would be compiling, I would say, the various facets of the participating higher education Edu brands. And this compilation, this profiling would be done across the 12 foundational frontiers, 5 financial frontiers, and 9 futuristic frontiers. And for the sake of, for the ease of participation, we would be requesting the very elaborate content from the institutions per se. And and you can see on your screens that these are the foundational frontiers, these are the financial frontiers, the 5 of them, and the 9 futuristic frontiers, around which we will be creating individual profiles of all the 108 higher edu brands. And this compendium is slated to get released on the International Education Day, which falls on 24th of January 2025, just 2 days before our Republic Day. And interestingly, this is also on the eve of Indian National Tourism Day. So education people move out from their locales where they are established. But thankfully, in India, we have now got universities. If we see the clustering across the nook and cranny, there are very eminent edu brands across wherever you find it, all the state capitals for that matter, and the prominent cities. We do have a huge cluster of higher education institutions, and in our separate broadcast, we'll be talking more about their concentration, making them as educational clusters, higher education clusters for that matter. For the sake of this primer, because all those higher education brands who would be coming to participate or compete, we would rather say, in this compendium, the foundational frontiers, we all know, we all have been filling up the very elaborate data sets of our very own sovereign NIRF, the National Institute ranking framework. But then, being a government body, it has got its own structural and regulatory limitations. And we want to really cheerlead on these 26 facets of these India's global higher edu brands. The first and the foremost is the curriculum and teaching pedagogy. A lot of institutions, for example, Shulini, established, nestled in the lovely hills of Solan, Himachal Pradesh, they have got their own style and way of it, and every university for that matter. And this is primarily for the privately held institutions. The public institutions obviously have their own dynamics. They are already being promoted by Excel and others. So the curriculum and teaching pedagogy, which the founders, they have a lot of experimentation leeway with them. So how the curriculum and teaching pedagogy is global in itself. And I would here like to say that Professor Premrat, the eminent doyen of the India's higher education space, a chronic IITian for that matter, a pure 100% Swadeshi Indic uh, academician, he says that India used to have a global dimension of its higher education from very early days. He quotes phenomenal examples from the Nalanda University. You can go through the Rethink India YouTube webpage, and you will see that how India's universities are really experimenting well. And in the contemporary times, almost every edu brands at whatever evolutionary curve they are at Rethink India, we don't believe in linear ranking. We say that all the Vishwavidyalaya, the 1,008 odd of them, we would be trying to have only a 10% uh, sample out of them. They are really experimenting well, and they are really creating a phenomenal experience out there. So just go out, and just narrate as to how the curriculum, the baseline curriculum stipulated by the various regulatory bodies, the various councils across higher technical disciplines, but how you have in yourself innovated and reimagined the teaching pedagogy. If you want to listen it, and how it meets with some of the globally best paradigms out there. The second and very foremost component is the technology enabled learning. What happens? Technology is not a challenger, it's a facilitator perhaps, but then the core thing comes is how we are going to leverage it. So, how the technology deployment, how the technology is interspersed into the entire teaching learning process. So, we want to really listen, read about more. And since this is going to be a digital compendium, the size doesn't matter. Be as elaborate as possible. And our editorial teams, led by yours sincerely, we would try to bring out some of the finest facets and highlight them across. The universities, the eduBRANDS, spend a lot of money, spend a lot of effort in creating beautiful advertisements which go to the mainstream media. But we felt like why not profile them into these parameters so that even the aspiring students, their parents, their mentors can really do a kind of a comparative analysis. And uh, the future is of personalized learning. A lot of career options have come all of a sudden, and it's not has to be a straight jacketed framework. I remember 10 years back when Rethink India, we hosted the Re-Engineering India Summit at Singapore. We got Professor Thomas Magnati, who was a doyen academician from the MIT fame. He said that the future of engineering is all about systems, products, and platforms, and it is going to be interdisciplinary in nature. So yes, the core faculty of computer science, core faculty of mechanical engineering, core faculty of electronics, electrical, architecture, but then they all will be interspersing. They all will be evolving, talking to each other and creating systems, products, and platforms. So from that perspective, this compendium is trying to really give them, apart from the numbers, triple A plus, double A plus, a kind of a what Professor H.C. Verma of the IIT Kharagpur, IIT Kanpur, I would say, the concepts of physics fame. He once hosted, he was invited at IIT Kharagpur for a lecture. He said, our education system has become kind of a Bata shoe company. 4 number का जूता, 3 number का जूता, 2 number का जूता. It becomes very difficult to appreciate things from a quantitative perspective. So while NIRF has done a phenomenal job in quantifying some of the foundational frontiers, a very elaborate data processing framework they have come through. But then there is a need for qualitative assessment. Qualitative, we have advertisements. We don't have profiling, which are done by a third party editorial team based on the data supplied, based on the content supplied by the university, by the brands themselves, but then presenting them in a kind of a compendium. So that this entire effort, this entire Edu India campaign, Edu India compendium, which we wish to bring about to the larger prospective learners from all across the country who want to stay back, get enrolled in one of the Indian universities, and not go out. It's a massive exodus of India's foreign exchange. Our IT industry, they work so very hard to earn the foreign reserves. A lot of our industries, and then somehow the other, our parents are somehow, because of the lack of awareness, because of lack of a push. Come on, we in India have got some of the finest global edu brands. So that's the whole intent of this entire campaign, and you can see the whole structure and design what we are trying to push forward. So curriculum and teaching pedagogy, technology enabled learning. The third parameter which students in global edu brands they look for is the state of the art infrastructure, right? From classrooms, how they are done, how they look and feel, the learning ambience of learning chambers, we can say. And then apart from the classrooms, how the entire academic block is done, how the laboratories are equipped, how the learning spaces, which are now in the era of BYOD, bring your own devices, the Wi-Fi campuses, and all that stuff. Learning has not to be very concentrated into a confined four walls. So state of the art infrastructure in whatever fashion you can explain, you can say we would like to cover that, give that a substantive component, and somewhere or the other we want to make individual portfolios for all the participating brands at least in 26 pages, 26 plus one, the cover one, and so forth, so that these are smaller booklets in the digital format, and they can be printed by whosoever needs them. It's like on order print is always available. Then well qualified faculty. The teachers are the touchstone of any academic environment. So what kind of faculty you have, not just the number, but the background they come from, their motivations, so and so forth. So that is one other segment we want to have in this Edu India portfolio, which make it a global Edu brand. Then obviously people are concerned about the proper accreditations and affiliations. And as a part of a lot of logos we see these days, but the general layman, the first time learners who are embarking upon their journey for a higher education, they are not very conversant with the background of it all. So for example, NIF ranking in any fashion, it should way more than any other media organizations ranking, rating, whatever things are coming through, and even the foreign rating or rankings. So we have to give them a weighted average. Oh, this means this means this. So giving them a larger understanding, and then are you accredited? How the NBA or NAC certifications are working well. So that is another information level thing which will be a part of this compendium. The sixth is quite important, and we would be putting up almost quite a substantive space to that. It is the venues for interdisciplinary learning. Because as I just mentioned a little way back, that future is for interdisciplinarity. A com science is one of the technologies, but then its application in the real world, it might overlay on a mechanical space, creating a robotics. And so interdisciplinarity has to be so very important. Are the departments talking to each other? Are the faculty really creating interdisciplinary projects? So that component you should put as much as possible. Then eclectic and deep industry linkages. Eclectic means like the whole industry has a continuum, the foreign multinationals who are operating, the big brands, tech brands. Then obviously the Indian conglomerates, the Indian industry brands, the Adanis, the Ambanis, the Birlas, the TVSs, the whole lot of it. Then obviously the public sector undertakings, they are a very strong component. Then the whole R&D establishment of the country. Yesterday we had the CSIR Foundation Day with a swathe of 50 odd are you in connect with them? Because that's where the real learning in the higher education space, especially in the techno managerial component. Then obviously the MSMEs, the micro, small, medium enterprises, which are the real powerhouses of our economy. So nothing. We have to really have an eclectic and deep industry link. Industry is not just a cliched concept; it is a whole continuum. So we want to hear it from you. And then obviously the scholarships or fellowships to students or faculty. So how the university fund, the eduBRAND fund, is there to help the needy, and to promote excellence, something on that sort. Then student and faculty exchange programs. So exchange program can be international. It can also be like if you are a private university, so are you exchanging or having some exchanges or quality improvement programs with perhaps the institutes of national importance like the IITs, IIMs? Do you have that kind of a linkages? So students are interested because that creates a dynamic learning environment on the campus. Then career counseling and placement services, very important. Uh, every student is unique. So how to position it, the backgrounding he or she comes from. So that kind of career counseling and placement services, it's very okay that if a student who acquires a UG degree from your university or a college, he or she chooses to go back to join their parental business, their family business, to empower it across. So that is also a very a valid placement for that matter, because education is all about empowerment. It's all about giving you imagination. It's all about equipping you with a lot of tools, with a lot of frameworks, with a lot of structures. And then whatever has been going on, go back and contribute to it. And that's where the real progress, the real prosperity lies in. Development of soft skills and interpersonal skills is very important because it's the age of adolescence. You are embarking on the level of youth. So how the self confidence is out there. Indian students generally they are on the conservative side. So can we make them a bit extrovert or ambivert for that matter? How to chisel that? How to express themselves? It doesn't matter that you need to talk in a flowery, statesman kind of a language, but you should be able to express yourself. So, is there an environment to equip them, to empower them? We want to hear that as a part of this compendium, and that will be really helpful for the prospective students from across the nook and cranny. Then finally, research, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Research uh, is important. We are searching it again. Research is all about appropriate, applied, and advanced research. Whatever level you are in, there has to be a focus towards research. A research program can all be about the Indian knowledge systems. There is a MSME in your vicinity, and have you really helped their current processes, re-engineering them, and helping them to overcome their own challenges? Innovation across the domain and entrepreneurship. So that's also a section we want to have in this EduIndia compendium. The financial frontiers. Yes, it's a tough age. So how the university as an institution, as a brand, you are supporting, helping, facilitating the prospective students in, for example, the tuition fee and other costs which are involved in academic training alongside provision of payments in installments. So what kind of a flexibility we want to document it across so that the prospective students they don't have to ring up the admissions helpline, and they can decide on their own in a very transparent, objective fashion. Oh, I can manage it, I can do it all through. The cost of living in your own edu destination on your campus. So tuition fees generally people know about it, but what is the overall cost of living? Giving a wider idea, a fairer idea, because that helps a student to choose, say, from a Jaipur to a Bhubaneswar to a Chennai, because we want to promote a transnational मोबिलिटी फॉर दैट मैटर. भारतवर्ष में लोग बाहर जाना चाहते हैं, तो वाई नॉट अ स्टूडेंट फ्रॉम मुंबई शुड चूज टू गो टू मद्रास. सो एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत का जो भाव है, आई थिंक हायर एजुकेशन कैन रियली गिव दैट exposure and experience to spend those 4 lovely years of one's life in a different city altogether, to get a new exposure. So India has got smart cities, aspiring smart cities. There are gaps everywhere. Yes, Pune is in deluge. So with such heavy rains, even the American cities get into a deluge. So somewhere or the other, we have to repose that faith in our own city, our own edu destination where the particular university is located. And one of the core features of this Edu India compendium, one of the segment would be a profiling of the edu destinations per se. So from an educational perspective, so tourism perspective is fine. We keep on moving for business purposes, for pilgrimage perspectives, but from an educational perspective, which are the cities of this country, which are the towns, we would rather say, because some of the finest Vishwavidyalaya are located in the towns or perhaps in the rural bastions itself. They are townships in themselves. So the cost of living component is important. The ease of getting an education loan, etc. Like, is the degree bankable? Have you tied up with the bank so that a student can aspire for educational loan and he can or she can repay it back with the institution's support? Then Medicare, because COVID showed that how vulnerable these contemporary times are. So, what kind of medical facilities you have? Preventive Medicare, because this is one of the ages where if ample care is there right in time, parents remain very worried if they are really sending their kids to a far off place. So this is one of the core features of global edu brands in the advanced countries. So we too are on the verge of becoming a Vikasit Bharat 2047. So are we really incorporating that? Then avenues for part-time student work. This is one of the facets which is quite natural. See, a person goes for higher education from an employment perspective. So do you have avenues? Uh, does the institution per se has taken some project work from various agencies, and can it compensate? Can a culture of earning while learning? Perhaps so this adds tremendous value. At least a pocket money can be earned by the students doing part-time job. Maybe they can go to the library, do some work. They can earn some wages. So ano bhadra karto etu vishwatah. So can we help them earn while learning those parameters? And Rethink India curated on its own in the Indic context some of the nine a nonet of futuristic frontiers which we feel will be very relevant for higher education from an Indian perspective. So that is institutional support for higher studies and commensurate entrance examinations. Not every student, they might be trying to study for a Union Public Service Commission examination, the civil services examination, the IAS. Higher studies, maybe students might like to go to for a management study, which is a PG degree. They might like to write the GATE examination. So how your university culture, because you have the faculty, you have the facilities, everything out there. So has the management thought about it to create an institutional support so that the students don't have to go outside for that matter? Let everything be provided on the campus itself, bundled into the same financial structures or maybe some fees here and there. So the power of collectivism can be invoked for that matter. Then integration of institutional prowess with the larger developmental programs and projects of local, state, and central government. So that's where the core application of higher education comes into play. Are you doing a kind of an academic audit of some of the infra works which is being done? Is the institution providing design services? If you're in architectural department, are you really consulting the local development authority? So it all depends on the edupreneur, it all depends on the kulpati, kuladhipati, and the others in the fray, because they are all, you're all very eminent, you're all connected. But do you have the aspiration to connect with the governmental spending? Because that's where a huge developmental, a huge money is involved, and a huge learning is out there. And that's where the core of higher education comes into play. So, is your linguistic department or humanities department really doing a survey of that particular geocultural locale on music, cuisine? So to develop it further, because when the students are there on the campuses, that's the phenomenal workforce. And engaging with the government pushes the governmental programs, the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, that was one dimension of it, one strand of it. But out of your own volition, have you developed, designed such linkages that will be very pertinent? That makes you a global higher edu brand. Then institutional support for accelerating and re-engineering family enterprises of the students. So Rethink India has had the great fortune, privilege to interface with the MSME ministry and the institutions under that. A large number of students who come for higher education, they have some for the form of the other, an enterprise back home. So can does the institution have a policy, have a kind of a program where you ask the student to profile their family enterprise and try to give them a kind of a parallel project ki bhai, how you can accelerate it, how you can re-engineer it. It's fine to go to a new startup, but where on what all dimensions the startups are actually working upon. The same human needs are being addressed and redressed, exploiting the power of technology, as simple as that. So whatever business process, whatever sector that particular student's household is working, so that augments learning like anything. It can be a pure academic exercise. The choice is on the student whether he or she joins back or accelerates their family enterprises or goes for any of the jobs or any of the career options. But then taking that family context into the higher education space has a phenomenal relevance, and that will really flock a lot of students to your campuses and not to the offshores. And institutional inclination for formalizing the traditional knowledge systems which are scattered across the geocultural locale of their very establishment. So think globally, but act locally. So if you are in a particular geocultural locale, so are you really a driving force? Do you have a content foundation of the traditional knowledge systems out there? Are you really contributing further? Researching or documenting is the first stage, and then you can innovate on top of it. So innovation doesn't happen in vacuity. And in our own geocultural context, can we make things happen? For example, Kanpur, there is a whole young entrepreneurial group who procured the fools, the flowers from the various temples, and they've created new agarbattis with that matter. So they somewhere found out that opportunity, thinking in a Indian knowledge system perspective. Then institutional programs for providing continuing professional development and upskilling for professionals. This is the standard part, but yes, what you are doing about it. Institutional interface and engagement with the various R&D organizations and agencies in their near vicinity. Near to far is the core concept. If you are a eduBrand in Dehradun, a lot of DRDO laboratories are out there. Have you really interfaced with them? Have you even talked to their very division heads? The non-classified information, these eminent scientists would be more than happy and willing to come to your university campuses and also invite the chosen ones to do a project with them. So these kind of very close linkages are important if you have to really aspire to become a global edu brand. And institutional interface and engagement with the various K-12 schools in their vicinity, providing the backward learning continuum. Now, this is so very important. One is from the admissions perspective also. If the nearby schools know about it, are you conducting, are you inviting them to visit them? So a lot of students would see that how their 11th and 12th PCMB translates it into an engineering or a liberal art or into any other higher education space. So that can be a very beautiful edu sojourn for the students. But structurally, your faculty can conduct the faculty development programs for the schools at large. Because somewhere or the other, the higher education institutions need to have a backward linkage through a slew of measures. So that what you are doing about it on the various frontiers. Uh, Institutional international collaborations of all denominations, what kind of international collaborations you have, deeper ones. And finally, the institutional cooperations with other institutions of their own genre across geography. So, Ek Bharat, Shreshth Bharat, are you doing a kind of a twining, a higher education edu brand from Dehradun, the Himalayas, interfacing with perhaps from Kerala, from West Bengal? So, East, South, North, West. So, a kind of a national, transnational interlinkages, because that adds phenomenal value. Maybe one semester, faculty is moving here and there. So, kind of a cooperation we are doing across. So, these are some of the frontiers and facets we felt should comprise of a global edu brand, an Indian global edu brand. And we look forward for your hearty participation in this maiden Edu India portfolio, which will be released on International Education Day, 24th of January 2025. There is a whole, you have to send elaborate notes on each one of these facets. The flyer containing the further participation details would be shared with you. You can always ping Dr. Surbhi on 9910050597. You have her numbers. So this was a kind of a primer we wanted to explain and expound. So until or unless we collectively position India's higher education as as having some moolah, some worthwhile substance as a collective block, I think this exodus of 7,50,000 students, it's a substantive number, considering that we have 1,008 universities in the country. If we just divide it across, so if we are 100% successful, so each of the universities can get and over to 700 students per year. I think that is a substantive revenue if we see the bottom line. And the top line is, why to let our students go abroad when we have everything on our own campuses? So the government has its own limitations. They have got their geopolitical play, but the universities per se, individually, They can really come forward and propound, I am the Edu brand from Dehradun, I am the Edu brand from Bhubaneswar, I am the global Edu brand from Chennai, I am the global Edu brand from Bhopal, I am the global Edu brand from Jaipur, I am from Jammu. So Bharat Varsh ka jo tourism aspect hai, let let our own students, the first goal, the first phase of this campaign is let our own students who are going abroad, let a significant chunk of them choose to stay back, choose one or the other India's global edu brands. They need to know, oh, this kind of infrastructure is out there, this kind of a global faculty we have out there, empowered faculty was on laurels. So UG program level, there is perhaps no need to go abroad. Perhaps at the PG level also, many of the institutions are doing phenomenally well. So as Professor Premrat says, that we need to have a movement in the country where we become cent percent Swadeshi. And with the advent of technology, some of the universities can say, oh, wherever we are lacking, we bring about the intellectual resources through Coursera's or through any XYZ platforms, NPTEL for that matter, we deploy NPTEL. So if our faculty is lacking somewhere or the other, learn from the IIT faculty members for that matter. So I think this is where this needs a kind of a churning, this needs a kind of a manthan. And the first and the foremost thing is that our universities have really, in the 2025 odd years, they have really come to that level that now they can compete with the global brands over there. They have got the infra, they have got the faculty, they've got the resources with them. So we invite you all on this World Tourism Day to be a part of one of this historic India's 108 Global Higher Edu Brands 2025. And we are here to support you to take this vision of reclaiming India's preeminent position as a global edu destination, imparting world-class education, stalling the mass exodus of students abroad. So with this, we close this primer, and thank you very much. Namaskar.